Hey there YouTube, Superbrain AK, and we've got the, what's that called? The power hub. That's the main board all stripped down, and unfortunately those things are pressure fit and this is pretty cheap wood, so it's kind of cracking, but I'll fix that up with some glue. But I took everything off so that I can cut this and this into it so that I can put the boost converter here, and I also made a way to mount it on my shelves. So it's not quite the subject of this video, so let's bring you down to the bench. And what do we got going on here? This is the Dell 550 watt 12 volt power supply, just one of them for now for testing. And this is a big old breadboard with my power on circuitry, because with what I want to do and the safety that I want it to have, I don't just want to use a switch to turn on both power supplies. I want to have a safety protect, because I want to be able to run these at 44.5 amps, and well, if one of them can't quite deliver that and the other one still can, we'll have a reverse voltage of 12 volts at 44.5 amps, which would blow up instead of just turning off the other power supply. I mean, maybe because the MOSFETs inside disconnect the 12 volts, it'll be fine, but I don't want to risk it. So, this is the circuit that I came up with. It's kind of backwards because these should be pulling these pins to ground instead of 3.3. I got that little reversed, but I figured that out now. So what I'm going to be using is 3 optocouplers, 1 switch, and a push button. The optocoupler here turns on from the power on switch, which goes through this resistor to ground, turning on this optocoupler, which connects PS on to ground. This guy's ground, the positive 12 volt, or the 24 volt power supply, and then the other optocoupler, nope, not optocoupler, just a resistor to the PS on. So this would have to be 3.3 volts, and that would have to be, this would have to be ground. But anyway, so that switch turns on the PS on for its own, because this is a 3.3 for this one, and then this turns on the optocoupler, which goes back to this ground, the main ground, which turns on this optocoupler, which pulls its 3.3 to the power PS on, but it's actually pulling PS on to ground in reality. But yeah, so this switch goes directly to the PS on pin. This goes directly to the optocoupler, and then so when this switch is on, the PS on pins are active. So this turns on the power supplies. However, they won't turn on unless the kill pins are activated. So how I have that is I'm going to have a push button which is fed. Here's the circuit on the breadboard. I have focus, there we go. So 3.3 volts from the DP30V5A, just so I can have it on without this thing being noisy. So 3.3 volts goes through the resistor, charging this capacitor. So this is a 50K pot. I forget what it's set at right now, but it's pretty high value, like 20-30K, charging a 220 microfarad capacitor. That, the output of the capacitor, jumps to my push button switch, and that output of the switch goes through this diode, because I'm going to be going to 2 different optocouplers. So you can see there, switch goes to here, there should be a diode over that way, and this should go to this optocoupler. And the reason why I need the diodes is because they're going to be fed by an optocoupler also. So, well, they're going to be fed by the other power supply's 12 volts. So that way they'll also be on when the other power supply's 12 volts is on. That's the problem. In order to detect the other one, well, you have to initialize it because both power supplies are off and I have to turn them on. So this is kind of like an override. However, we can see with that LED, that isn't enough to turn on the power supply. Let's go ahead and give that a quick test. Oh, wait. Boop. There we go. So if I press the button, it's going to discharge the capacitor into the optocoupler. Boink. And if I hold it, it's not enough to trigger the power supply on. So if I hold it and it immediately cuts off, if there's no 12 volts, then it won't turn on. So yeah. So let's try that. I have to disconnect this because there's no LED. So this goes to here. This is the PS kill. This white wire is the 12 volts from the power supply. I'm basically making it so that itself is turning itself on, which in reality it would be the other power supply. This is the power on. So, plug in the server. So that would give me 3.3 volts. Pull power on to ground. And press the button. So now it's on. And the only way to turn it back off is to connect that. So you can see this little LED in series with the optocoupler and the resistor so that it turns on, and this resistor with this diode prevents it backfeeding into the other optocoupler. And let's see, if I disconnect the 12 volts so that it's an error, the other power supply isn't going to turn on. Oh. Did you hear that? It tries to turn on, but it isn't enough to stay on. You can kind of do it quickly, but if you hold it, it doesn't always keep trying. So if there is an error and both aren't turning on, then it'll only be a brief pulse and should be fine. Let's see the light on the back of it. There on the left side of the screen. Blink. That probably isn't even enough to get 12 volts out. But there you go. So the next part is to build the whole circuit and then test it and then build it. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.